Hello and welcome. Today, we're digging into an ancient philosophy that feels like it was built for our modern, chaotic world, Stoicism. And this isn't some dusty, abstract theory. For the Greeks and Romans, this was a hands-on toolkit, literally an art of life, designed to get you through the toughest times.
So let's just start with the big question, the one Stoicism really tries to answer. In a world that is just so unpredictable, so overwhelming at times, how do you build an inner calm, a kind of fortress inside yourself that nothing and no one can tear down?
You see, for the Stoics, philosophy wasn't some boring subject you debated in a classroom and then just forgot about. No way. It was the user manual for being human. It was meant to be intensely practical, a real guide to living well, making good choices, and finding a genuine sense of happiness, no matter what life throws at you. Okay, so what's the goal here? The core idea, the whole formula of Stoicism, is to live consistently with nature. Now hold on, this doesn't mean you have to go move into a cabin in the woods. For the Stoics, nature meant the highest, most perfected version of a thing. And since we humans are rational animals, our nature is the perfection of reason and virtue. So living with nature really just means living a virtuous and rational life.
This quote right here, it gives us the perfect map for understanding the entire system. The Stoics use this beautiful metaphor, a fertile orchard. Think about it. Ethics, that's how we should act, is the ultimate goal, right? The delicious fruit. Physics, which is our understanding of the world, are the tall trees that actually produce that fruit. And logic, well, logic is the strong, protective wall around the whole thing.
So the crucial takeaway is that you can't have one without the others. They're all connected. That wall of logic protects our thinking from falling into error. The trees of physics give us a solid, grounded understanding of reality. And only then, when those are in place, can we actually harvest the fruit of ethics, which is a good and happy life. So let's start with that wall.
All right, part one, logic. This is our first line of defense. The Stoics were convinced that before we can even hope to act the right way, we first have to learn to think the right way. Logic is that strong wall that protects our minds from false ideas, from bad arguments, and from irrational conclusions.
The Stoics imagined the mind of a baby as a blank sheet of paper. Everything we come to know starts as an impression that comes in through our senses, what they called a fantasy. This is just the raw data flooding in. You know, the sight of a tree, the sound of a person's voice, the feeling of a cold breeze. But how do we know if what we're sensing is actually real? The Stoics had this amazing answer, the gripping fantasy. This is an impression that is so clear, so vivid, so obviously true that it has this irresistible conviction. It's an impression that practically grabs you by the collar and forces you to agree with it. That's how you know you're grasping something real. Zeno, the guy who founded Stoicism, had this brilliant way of showing the path to knowledge just by using his hand. So picture this. He holds out his hand, palm open and flat. This, he said, is a fantasia. That first raw impression, just data hitting your senses. Now watch. He slightly curls his fingers in. This represents assent. This is the moment your mind kicks in and says, okay, I accept this impression. I'm going to consider it. It's a conscious choice you make to take that raw data seriously. And then he closes his hand into a tight fist. This is comprehension. See, this isn't just about accepting an impression anymore. This is about truly grasping it. It's one of those gripping fantasies that you've tested, you've examined, and you understand that it's real. And for the final step, he takes that fist and clasps it securely with his other hand. This is knowledge. It's a comprehension that is so firm, so locked down by reason, that no argument in the world can shake it loose. That's the solid foundation you build inside the wall of logic. Okay, so our wall is built. It's strong. Now we can turn our attention to the trees inside our orchard. Physics. For the Stoics, this wasn't about memorizing formulas. It was about understanding the fundamental nature of the universe we all live in.
So, the Stoics believed that literally everything in existence is made of two basic principles. First, you've got the passive principle, matter. Just think of it like a lump of shapeless, lifeless clay. Then you have the active principle, logos, reason, or even God. This is the divine rational force, the artist's hand, that moves through and shapes that clay into everything we see around us.
And this is a huge point. For the Stoics, the universe isn't just a bunch of dead, random things bumping into each other. No, it's a single, unified, living being, an organism that's animated by a divine reason. Everything is connected, everything has a purpose, and it's all part of this grand, rational design.
And this is exactly why physics is so important for ethics. As the Stoic philosopher Chrysippus puts it, our sense of right and wrong, the very idea of justice, has to come from the rational nature of the universe itself. Basically, to know how you should act, you first have to know where you are and what this place is all about.
And that brings us to the whole reason we built the wall and tended the trees in the first place, harvesting the fruit. This is ethics. With a protected mind and a clear understanding of the world, we can finally tackle the most important question of all. How do we live a good life?
Okay, get ready, because this is one of Stoicism's most radical ideas. They basically sorted everything in the world into 3 buckets. First, the only true good is virtue, acting with reason. Second, the only true bad is vice, acting out of ignorance. And then there's everything else. I mean everything. Your health, your wealth, your reputation, your job, even life and death. The Stoics called all of that stuff indifferent. They argued these things have absolutely no real impact on your happiness because they're ultimately outside of your complete control.
Now, this whole framework, it leads to some pretty wild conclusions. The Stoics loved using these paradoxes to test their logic. So, let me ask you one. Is telling a little white lie really as bad as committing murder?
Well, the hardcore Stoic answer is yes. Their logic was that right and wrong is a clear, hard line. You're either on the right side of it or you've crossed it. And once you've stepped over into vice, it doesn't matter if you're 1 inch over the line or 10 miles over the line, you're still on the wrong side.
All of this logic leads to their ideal person, the Stoic sage. This is a theoretically perfect, rational being. They are apathetic, and this is so important. It doesn't mean they're emotionless robots. Not at all. It means they aren't controlled by irrational passions like rage or fear. They're infallible because their reason is perfect. They're totally self-sufficient, finding happiness only in their own virtue. And they can't truly be harmed because the only real harm is vice, and that is something they control completely. So we've built the wall. We've understood the trees. We've tasted the fruit. What does this ancient philosophy actually have to offer us right here, right now, in our own lives? Let's try and bring it all together. You know, one of the most beautiful and lasting fruits of Stoicism is its deep, profound sense of humanity. This quote just captures it perfectly. I am human, and I think nothing human is alien to me. Because we all share that spark of divine logos, the Stoics argued for the brotherhood of all mankind. They recognized the worth of every single person, no matter their status or where they came from.
And so, we're going to end by turning that very first lesson of Stoicism back on ourselves. Their whole system of logic was built to help them tell the difference between what they control and what they don't. So, take a moment and ask yourself, what in your life is truly inside your control? Your thoughts, your judgments, your actions, and what lies outside of it? Knowing that difference, the Stoics would say, is the very first step to building your own orchard of the mind.